Right, good evening and welcome to Central Italy for this, the inaugural race of the Racing Pals Project Ameliorate Championship at the Autodromo dell'Umbria, more commonly known as Magione. For those unfamiliar with what this season is going to bring for you, this is the replacement series to our good old Formula Pals series, but retaining the custom cars and a bit of a twist. This championship series will not just see our competitors go head-to-head for the drivers and teams trophies, but we'll also see teams be able to upgrade their cars over the course of the season to try and gain an edge against their competitors. There are many upgrade trees which can improve everything from the aero to the engine for the spending of upgrade tokens. These tokens are assigned to teams at the end of each race inverse to finishing position, so the teams who perform worse will receive more tokens and thus a greater potential to improve. Now that little blurb is out of the way, we have 8 minutes roughly left of the first practice session here at Magione. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm always concerned with these Italian names. Then again, Husky's in the chat I see, so he'll be very used to getting names wrong. Let's have a look then at our teams as we start off. Let's see who's currently leading these practice sessions. I'll get a nice F5 cam view, shall I, of all the... So as we can see here, the first team on our list, Williams Racing, seemingly gone for a very, very retro looking Williams livery, almost to the, well, to a T basically, being driven by Devdo, who is currently leading this practice session with a 129.6. Their team good 2 seconds clear at the moment of anybody else in this practice. And their second driver, Dionysus New, in the 26 car. Let's move on to Spectre Racing, with M1 LDT at the helm of the number 22 car, bringing back the Spectre name after I think 2 seasons from Formula Power Season 2, I think was the last time we saw it, and his teammate naturally is Darkius, who is currently disconnected, so I cannot see his car, but it looks much like this, but with Darkius on the number plate. Our next team, and I am very sorry that you have to see these things, is Small PP. The less said, the better about the livery, but Thomas Jack, as we know, a very quick driver indeed, especially in Assetto Corsa Competizione, and his teammate will be none other than good old Carl Cook, returning after I think 1 season away from Formula Pals. That is Sench, who again is currently disconnected and I cannot click on. But the car looks much like this, but with blue on the back. And we see a return now of HCR, the Helios Community Racing Team, with Sylvain Hubble at the wheel of the 13 car. A nice little livery going on there, nice little reds and golds. And his teammate will be Benjamin Walrack, who has said hello in the chat, and I shall say hello to you too. Let's have a look, moving down the order. Deep Cuts next on the list for the Peace T Racing Team, with a very striking bold coloured livery and a bold coloured helmet to go along with it. He is in the 28 car alongside someone who isn't currently in the server, but he will be alongside Jacob Alacia, Jacob the Snack, who is the race director for this series and competing alongside my fellow commentator Deep, hoping to take the inaugural race, I assume, of his own series. And now we come on to Poland's finest, a team run between Eduardo Pigeon and Jacob Skrodzki. Again, apologies for any pronunciation issues. You can see Skrodzki here in the very surprisingly good looking Orlen Poland was an imposter car. Certainly will stand out amongst the competition, and he's driving the 43 car with his teammate in a very fitting Polish 88 car. Nice little, I assume a nice little tribute to Mr. Kubica. Next up we have the leftovers, I believe these are, with a very basic Shake Shack Yorkshire Tea number 3 car. I know Thomas Jack was also in number 3 car. We have 3 number 3 cars due to some livery issues, but As see a nice mint green sort of colour they've gone for here. Next up is another livery I'm very sorry that you have to see. Spinardi returns after 2 seasons of winning the Drivers' Championship in Formula Pals. Spinardi has returned to try and win in this new series today and over the course of the next 12 weeks of racing. Trainboy here, seen in another number 3 car, as I said, is replacing former driver champion, Formula Pals 2 times, I believe, driver champion Robin Moe, who unfortunately could not make it today, but he is replaced here by Trainboy 2005, also known as Michael Randall over in ACC, if you've seen him, racing over there. And his teammate will be Daniel Scott, again in the number 3 car. And next up, Indian bus drivers. As you can see, the lovely helmet and livery there. I wonder who made that. Of Crime. And his teammate will be Gons in the bright pink, very much Force India inspired Racing Point style car. And we do also see a return of another team. Like I say, Indian bus drivers also competing last year, won the team's championship. Myself driving alongside Gons in that particular series. And we see another team returning to the grid. That is QP, who currently do not have a traditional QP livery submitted, but thankfully there is a very suitable one for the car anyway, which can be seen here. QP will be driven by Suicidal Cookie once again, and he will be joined once again by Aaron Fiedlak, who again unfortunately couldn't make it today. That runs through all of our teams. Now, obviously, I finally get to say the words of the immortal words of Sam Collins that he has said almost every year on dot. This isn't actually a colouring competition anymore, as these cars have already been upgraded. How they have been upgraded, we do not yet fully know. After the pre-season race that occurred 2 weeks ago at, I believe, Vallelunga Club, drivers, all teams were given a base load of points with which to upgrade their cars before the series begins, and we will see how that and how their choices have already begun to pay off for them. Whether Devdo and Dion just have good pace, or whether they have done something to that car already which has put them above the rest for now, as we see I believe that was Dion going off the track. Then no, it was Devdo, as we reach the final 1 minute of qualifying. I've realised I had the map there covering all the cars the entire time. I apologise for that. But let's take a quick look at the track then, as it's one of these tracks that I think people are less familiar with, despite the fact it is a staple base game content in Assetto Corsa. A very nicely balanced track, a rather fun track to drive if you have the right car to drive it in. First sector full of hairpins and tight turns. Final sector, a lot of right-hand corners, as you can see there, as you come down the long front stretch towards first wide hairpin, followed by a tighter hairpin, followed by a nice little left-hand kink, and an even tighter hairpin to follow it. Let's see if we can find someone crossing the line, but it is the end of practice. I don't know if they're going to do another lap, but we ride on board with Devdo through turn 1. Have a look. This is the Curva Trialiccio. Again, pronunciations are probably awful, but let's have a look. Now up to the Curva Vecce box. So a nice right-hand wide sweeping hairpin, followed by a tighter left-hand hairpin, and the Curva Esse Tornantino coming up now. A nice little 90-degree left-hander straight into the Tornantino, which is a sharp hairpin, followed by the Curva Muro, and it's probably the most important corner on this circuit. I'd say you want to make sure you can get a good exit out of that corner for this very, very long straight, which covers the entire length of the circuit proper. up to turn 6, which is Cavone, which is a surprisingly, from what I've done, as unfortunately Devgo goes off. I hope, please finish this lap and don't make me go to try and find someone else. I think he's going to finish it. You know, it looks like he's pulling over. That's unfortunate. I was scared to say that corner is actually, from what I've done practice, it's a lot faster than you might think it is, but he clearly went a little too fast there, as now we arrive on board with Hubble, who's just come through now the Curva Monte Sporello, and now the second, no, this is the final corner, it's the Prima Essay, so there are several corners in that section, 8, 9, 10, 11, a little bit of right, left, and you come back onto the main straight. As we see Communist Loser in chat, who I believe was driving for the Yaoi over Yuri team that I haven't covered because they are not actually in the server right now. I believe there are 1 or 2 teams who are signed up. I think it's Ghost Rider Racing and themselves who aren't in the server. At least not that I can see. Saying that turn 3 and 4 is easily the most annoying corners on the track. Somehow all the gears are wrong. And that's something that's going to have to be noted in this particular race series, is these cars, all I believe at the moment, I don't believe anyone's made the upgrades. As we've been speaking about upgrades, you can upgrade the gearbox, but by default you start with 3 gears, and well, that can be a problem if you've upgraded your engine and have too much power to play with. From my own experience of practice, there's some difficult downshifts to be had in this circuit as the server ticks over to qualifying. I'm now going to position the camera for very nice later views. Unfortunately, the F6 cams on this aren't as good as I'd want them to be, but there we go. Classic F1 style camera. We'll see who's going to go out first in this qualifying session. Once the, I believe it should be a minute timer, counts down. Communist Loser saying they should have been driving today, sadly suffering from major connection issues. That is unfortunate, but we have 18 cars on the grid, so there is still good fighting to be had. So quickly, whilst we're waiting for server tick over once again, running down the order, the Cilliams Racing team absolutely on it in practice, 129.6. Oh, yep, thank you, Husky. I completely forgot about that. As it now ticks over to qualifying, so I cannot read those times again. Right, now the map is off. Let's have a look who's come out first. Thomas Jack straight out of the box, looking to have himself a crack at pole position. 10 minutes for qualifying only, which in these cars might be pushing it. We'll have to see how many laps they're able to do. I would say lap time's looking to be about 1 minute 30, so probably 1 stint or 2 if they want to take very low fuel. This is why I wanted this camera view. Nice classic F1 style view. Let's have a look. As we see coming out of the pit lane still, Thomas Jack, followed by Nick Chin, followed by Deep Cuts, Daniel Scott, Train Boy 2005, The Good Doctor, M1LDT, Skrodsky, Pigeon, Cookie, Hubble, and Jacob Darkius, Devdo, and Walrack currently coming out in 15th place. As Dionysus New just comes out the pits himself to take 16th. The only cars not on the grid at the moment appear to be the Indian bus drivers of Gons and Crime. Although I am not fully expecting Gons to come out, as he is famous for not qualifying in his races, but Crime maybe will come out later on in the session. See, Thomas Jack has crossed the line, but seems to have... I'm not sure if he just had, if that's just a feature of the car. It looked like he'd slowed down for a second there, but I think he's still on a flying lap as we ride on board. As Husky says, gone supreme with sour cream, the famous no qualifying strategy of the one and only Gonzi Gonzington. As you can see, this car, with the gearing it has, just struggles sometimes to get up to pace out of these corners. Momentum is going to be something dearly want to be conserved by these drivers today. So Tom, round turn 6, now comes into the technical section of right left. He takes a wide line. Turn 7, cutting back. As he comes up to the line to cross it, a 132.8. Can Nick Chin beat him to the post? No, he can't. Goes a good 2 seconds quicker. And his teammates, a good doctor, followed very closely by Trainboy 2005, does a 136.3. Good doctor there doing a 133.7. So you see these times begin to come in, and we will check back in once more times have been put on the board. Let's have a look what our practice pole sitter, if you want to call him that, can do. I mean, I want to call him that, but I'm going to. Let's see, as this first Citium's car comes across the line, I think that must have been invalid. Well, that's disappointing. Let's have a look. His teammate coming out to the final section of corners. So we can get some good camera views. We see him cross the line, take pole position of 129.6 immediately. I have a feeling this race is going to be Cilium's dominated. If things remain as they are, that's the question will be which one of the two teammates will come out ahead. As I believe that's not too dissimilar from the best time put in by his teammate during practice. But at the moment, no other team seem to be able to get within 2 seconds of this very nice tribute to the Williams FW14 era cars. So we see Darky has come to the end of his second, I believe it's his second or third flying lap. Maybe not, maybe he's somewhere completely different and I've completely ignored it. No, he did, but didn't improve. As we see, Devdo has done a 130.185 as Dion, his teammate, goes even quicker. The fastest lap thus far of the day, at least in the official sessions. What they've done elsewhere might be different. Over 129.453. A very satisfying number for the end there. He'll be very pleased with himself as we have 3.5 minutes of quali remaining. I think that's just about enough for 2 or 3 laps. Yeah, Communist, I agree with you. They're entirely in chat saying that this field is indeed filled with very pretty cars and some less pretty cars, but let's just hope we don't have to pay as much attention to them as we as we do to others. As we see, talking of which, 5th place, Thomas Jack in, again, one of the more interesting cars on the grid. This car, which I happen to know, this livery at least, which I happen to know was is the second draft of a livery, which was initially rejected for reasons which anyone who's seen it can very much understand. Let's have a look at somebody else. Let's have a look at the Peace T cars. How are they getting on? So Jacob the Snack currently with a 132.526. Again, another very pretty car. His teammate doesn't appear to have been able to put together a good lap as he gets caught there behind the small PP car of Sench. Starting his new flying lap, he puts it at a 135.8, possibly held up by Sench on that previous lap. Well, Mr. Communist, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. Your tastes are clearly very, very different to mine. As we see, the good doctor has pitted, possibly, or most likely, I assume, for the last time, unless he's planning to a very, very low fuel run in the near future. He has about 10 seconds, however, to come out of the pits and start getting a lap together to get just under the checkered. So I assume that that is him done for the session, as I assume it's Skrodsky. As we see the QB car of Suicidal Cookie. Very, very conveniently made livery. As he is currently sitting in 9th place with a 132.9. In the race would be quite benefited because it actually gives you a nice little icon of who's made places. It gives coloured indicators, this timing tower. Unfortunately, in qualifying, it doesn't seem to want to do it, or doesn't do it. As we see, Deep Cuts finally does a proper lap, puts a proper lap together, and it's a 132.036, just under the line. He'll have one more attempt if he's able to make it round again, if he has enough fuel. But that puts him up to 5th place ahead of Thomas Jack, as Sench now comes into the pits, will not be able to put another lap together, and he is 17th with a 137.188. That also means, I assume, there is someone else who has joined, because there were 18 cars in the practice and there are now 19 cars. We'll have to find out who the surprise guest is. This must be one of these people. As we have the checkered flag, M1LDT locked in his time at a 131.468. Jacob the Snake goes faster, drops Darkiest down to 5th, takes the 4th place position. Let's have a look at where other drivers perhaps are on track. As Suicidal Cookie just managed, I believe, to start his fast lap, his new fast lap, just before the checkered came out. Appears to still be running on a clean lap. Dion now locked in, hits pole position for now, provisional pole as they say, the 129.453 still. Devdo has not yet managed to go faster, as he himself, I think, must be checkered, but it doesn't seem to want to show it. Not quite sure how long it takes them to get around that section. Anyway, Cookie appears to be, as I think that's one of the Spinardi cars, just goes flying off the track at turn 7. We'll see if Cookie is still on a flying lap, which he should be, what he can do. As you can hear him downshift, put the throttle on furiously, which is something you have to do in these cars to keep them under control through corners. We'll see a lot of that during the race. I assume he goes faster, but only by around 2 tenths, with a 132.788. Devdo's rounding the final corners. No, he goes into the pit lane, immediately takes a checkered on the entry. So Devdo will be provisionally second place on this. Nick Chin Nick Chin comes into pit, so there we have it. Your qualifying order now. Dionysus Nu, Devdo, M1 LDT, Jacob the Snack, Darkius, Deep Cuts, Thomas Jack, Sylvain Hubble, Eduardo Pigeon, and the Good Doctor for the top 10. Followed by Cookie, Skrodsky, Trainboy, Walrack, Chin, Scott, Sench. And we will have to see what order specifically it decides to start them in, but behind this pack even, the Indian bus driver's car of Crime, who is in the chat right now saying that Indian bus drivers are winning this season. Well, they won last season, so let's see what they can do. And Gonzy Gonzington. And whichever one of them starts first, I do not know yet, but they will round out the back of the pack. As we now wait for qualifying to tick over and for the race to begin. So if we want perhaps a slightly interesting fact about this circuit, and I think this is a fun little fact, is that if this series was to be run in any official capacity, these would be the slowest laps recorded around this track in race conditions, by the sounds of it. The slowest lap time on the present full circuit is a 1:16.4 by TCR Touring Cars, a Honda Civic Type R driven by Roberto Colciago. Go with that pronunciation. The fastest lap actually is a Formula 3000 in a 1:04.7. In 2008, a Lola BO250 driven by Fabio Onidi. Right, as the drivers now take the grid for this inaugural race of Project Ameliorate. So we can see them here. Dion eager on the front row. I'm not sure what the countdown timer is. I assume it'll be between 1 and 2 minutes, as it usually is. If you're wondering why there is a car in the pit lane, that is the spectator car, which is usually meant to be a Porsche Cayman, but for some reason it has been removed, so I am sitting, commentating from the interior of the starter car. As we see the lights come on for this, the Magione Grand Prix. It's 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, 6 lights! And they're off! As they all get bogged down on the start trying to come to terms. Devdo gets a terrible start. He has not had a good run. He is dropped to 7th at the moment. Let's see where things are happening. Jaker is fighting furiously with M1 LDT. Behind them, things are starting to even out. Thomas Jack there looking like he's trying to get some slipstream on Darkius. Deep Cuts soon to come under threat as Darkius gets up the inside of Deep Cuts but doesn't quite hold it. There's a lot of chaos going around at the back. Devdo has made up, I think, 1 place maybe. Back up to 7th still. But from that start, he has just got an awful start off the line. I don't think he heard Cheba's chat good luck message there. As Deep Cuts also now really coming under threat as Devdo takes the outside line. That car has got an awful lot of pace. I think their investments have paid off for this race. Just look at that. Devdo flying past both Deep Cuts and I believe that Darkius as well. That is an impressive as under braking Thomas Jack. There's contact. Thomas Jack just took to the inside and Deep had no choice but to give way. But he gets it back on the next corner. As Jebba says, the speed that these Cilliams cars seem to carry. You'd almost think that Adrian Newey himself had actually taken a hand in designing them. As things start to peter out now, let's have a look what Devdo is doing up here as Yep, Jaker looks to be making a move on Milt, but doesn't manage to get it done. Milt covers it off pretty impressively. But Devdo is eyeing them both and ready, I think, to pounce on that back straight. Or before, he's going to take it already. Going to try around the outside of turn 2. Is it going to pay off? No, it doesn't. Will he get a switch back into turn 3? But obviously, if he takes the inside here in turn 3, he's going to struggle on the outside of turn 4, possibly. No, he thinks better of it. There might be a bit of contact there, but I can't quite see it. Now here we see, a bit of bumping between Milt and the Cilliams car. Thankfully, look at these cars. They are not going to feel anything of that. They have no aero whatsoever. It's just going to be a light tap and away. As, here we go. That is Devdo past Jake and the Snack, now on to try and take as Cookie drops down the order. I'm not sure what happened there. Unfortunately, AC does not allow for instant replay as ACT does. It looked like he might have just had an off or an issue there at the back of the grid. Now, well, not at the back of the grid, but at P9 at the moment. As we see now, Jaker continuing the under threat from Darkiest. These two, I think, are going to be duking it out for the rest of this season. As Dionysus Nu just comes to the end of the second lap. He's 5 seconds clear, he's 6 seconds clear. As we see there, Devdo. Let's ride on board with this beautiful camera view from Devdo. He's going to go the wrong way around for that car. We see the pace difference there. Let's see if he can get past or not. You can see M1 LDT. And he gets past. Devdo makes the move, makes it stick. I think that's it for the Cilliams lads. I think they're away. I think it's going to be a crash or nothing else for the next 27 laps for those two. But obviously Dev is going to want to catch up to his teammate and maybe try and make a move on him. But whatever they have done to their car, it has paid off. Let's have a look what battles are. So we're going to have to cycle through some of these cameras. Very odd camera, that one. We have a look. Deep cuts on the rear of Darkiest there in the number 2 Spectre racing car. 4 seconds behind, but Cookie now almost 1 second within Hubble, range of Hubble for the HCR team. After want to get past Sylvain. Obviously Cookie racing alone today. No Aaron Fiedelack and no replacement forthcoming, meaning that he is going to have to do his best to pick up more points. As I understand it, if you don't start the race and don't manage to get a replacement, your team will still get 10 tokens for your car, but you won't receive the same as you would with both drivers actively participating. You can see that little throttle kick as they downshift. Cookie having lost a little bit of space, as I believe that's teammates on teammate. As we see the Poland cars battling each other. As the Doctor, now the good Doctor, tries to get in as well, but gets cut off a little bit through turn 4. Coming through turn 5 up to the main straight again. These cars will be equal in speed no matter what, but the slipstream can always play a part, and they are certainly within slipstream range. So we see ahead, deep cuts again, maybe trying to make a move on Darkiest thinks better of it through that turn, the final turn of the straight, as we get a green light saying that everyone's improved, but I don't think anyone had. I think there might be some sort of glitch with the system. Oh, as we see Nick Chin, sounds like, you could hear that in the background. He got in the gravel, and Trainboy 2005 for the Spinardi team gets ahead. We have a look back up front. Deep cuts and Darkiest still absolutely slugging it out throughout these laps. Two very skilled drivers in their own rights, wanting to take each other on. Two directors, Racing Pals directors, both of them. See two very, very well-designed cars there. Duking it out. Cookie once again now in ninth, back on the tail of Hubble down the order as the Good Doctor again on the back of Pigeon. Let's have a look. He's side by side with him. And he just made a move. There's a contact, but nothing's going to come of it. I don't think anything will come of that post-race either. For those who aren't aware, this series is post-race stewarded. So the stewarding team will take... Oh, as Good Doctor gets a very good run out there, but almost over exit. But no contact is made. As I was saying, this race is post-race stewarding, as is this whole season, which involves both penalties in the race and also drivers' points penalties, which are applied. And at which point, when you like a super license, like an F1 sort of super license points, you get a quali ban at the end of a certain number of points. Oh, I think there might have been a bit of lag, a bit of connection lag there, possibly from Darkius. It looks to me like he just snapped back. It might have just been the camera angle. He might have had a bit of that downshift flick. As, oh, Deep Cuts is in the wall. What happened there? He might have just touched, got too close to the back of Darkius and just touched and got sent off to the right. No, I definitely think Darkius is perhaps having some connection issues, because I don't see anyone else bouncing around, which would suggest it was mine, but it's just him. If that is the case, that might need to be looked at post-race. But we shall wait and see. Hopefully it will stabilize itself, and these two can continue battling as well as they have been. Obviously Darkius may not realize what's happening. I think if he had, he might get the place back, but... As we see now, Gons. So we haven't seen much from these people who started at the back, the Indian bus drivers team. Gons fighting now with Daniel Scott. Indian bus drivers versus Spinardi. You see the bright pinks and bright, I'm not even sure what to call it. I'd say green, but sorry, they're one of those yellowish greens that you can't really tell the colour of. Oh, as we see, get a bit bogged down in the exits. Cars are prone to do, but he's going to try and gain, being just about within slipstream range. He gets a better exit, a much better exit. He's going to have to try and make a move. He makes a big move to the inside. So they're side by side. That gold wheels versus silver. Who's going to come out on top? It looks like Gons has got it sewn up and done, but will he stick it round here? Maintain. He gets on the grass, but so does the Spinardi car. They somehow avoid major contact, but the Spinardi car is once again ahead. Daniel Scott also taking to the grass, but just a little bit less than Gons. As we see now, Gonzalez is going to make another move, or want to make another move on Daniel Scott for that 15th place position. Let's take a little look up the order. Sylvain Hubble looked like he was about to be making some gains on Cookie, but down the straight, and again this is possibly where upgrades are coming into play, just drops off, but also allows the Poland's finest car of Jay Skrodzki to catch up a little bit and get within that sort of slipstream range, possibly as he goes off the track. And I think that's it. Skrodzki has made him, as Hubble gets off the track a little bit, has to slow down, has to reclaim the car, and that's Skrodzki taking 9th place, pushing Hubble to 10th. As Gons is back within shooting range, pistol range of Daniel Scott. Daniel's going to try and stick it on the inside, possibly. Watch for a dive whilst Gons here, but he looks to be well clear by the time of the corner. Now, can he stick it this time round? He sticks it, he gets onto the curving, but Daniel's going to make a lunge up the inside. Bit of contact on the outside wheels there, I believe, but the rear wheels there making a little bit of contact, and Daniel sticks it back. Gons are going to have to try and get back past him once again towards the end of this lap or on the next lap. So he might backed off a little bit there, try and get a good run down the start finish. see them continue this battle for 15th, heating up quite a bit. Gons makes a lunge at turn 1, this long hairpin, but Daniel, if he can stick it out, has a good shot at the inside of turn 2, but he doesn't. And I think that's Gons with the place. The good doctor appears to have just disconnected. No, he is back. Possible connection lag there. But it looks like he gained a place from Pigeon, but again, I'm not sure. Possibly some connection issues for the good doctor as well. Again, as far as I'm aware, this is on my end because everyone else seems to be doing perfectly fine. As Benjamin Morak, for a minute there, was also again on the back of Daniel Scott after Daniel being overtaken by Gons at turn 1. There's a little fight here happening for 16th place now. So as things stand, Dionysus New, this Cilium's car, we haven't seen it in a little while. As perhaps to be expected with its just pure dominance. He has now only 2.7 seconds to Devdo behind. Devdo, I believe, possibly lapping a little bit quicker, as that gap at the beginning of this race was around 5 seconds by the time that Devdo managed to get past those that leading pack. After falling back so harshly on the start. Yep, Devdo clearly clawing back some time to his teammate, but the gap between the leading 2 cars of the Cilium's team and the rest of the pack is almost up to around 10-11 seconds when the time stabilizes. That is an extraordinary gap. That clearly shows that whatever Ciliums have done in the first week to adjust their cars has paid off. I do recall Dion being quite optimistic about his chances, as Daniel Scott seemingly just got passed by Benjamin Warrack. Someone, sounds like, is in the gravel. I don't know who. The Spinardi car decided to also go out there. That was Gons in the Indian bus driver's car. I thought it might be. He is now back to 17th behind Walrack and Scott, and will once again have to reclaw his way by both of them. Meanwhile, Crime apparently down 1 lap. I'm not sure what has happened there quite, but he appears to be trying to battle with Sench, but the timing tower at least is telling me he's down 1 lap. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I'm assuming it is accurate enough. Possibly he has had some sort of issue and is now a lap down. So for all of his talk about winning, unfortunately it looks like they may not today. Daniel Scott now is being passed once again by Gons. Maybe got a bit squirrely himself and lost some time. But again, he's going to try and stick it out. He gets on the grass into turn 4 and just can't get the power down, but he will try and hang on for as long as he can. Oh, as Gons gets a snap of oversteer, I think, on that exit. I think Gons got the downshift oversteer snap. And at the same time as Daniel's trying to come through, they come together. Unfortunate. Daniel looks like he's going to give that back. I don't know what they're doing. I think perhaps Gons slots in behind him. I think as Sench goes past the both of them, I think perhaps Daniel wanted to give that place back. That's very sportsmanlike of him, wanting to give that place back. As Crime now is in the mix. But I think, yeah, Daniel might have wanted to give that place back as a show of sportsmanship, thinking that he was in the wrong, but Gons, knowing that the snap had affected him more, perhaps didn't want him to have that place back because he felt that he was more in the wrong. That'll be as the teammates come together and Gons punts Crime off the track. This is all going on at the back of this grid, as at some point in this madness, Dion has had a spin. It looks like Dion has had a spin at the other end of the track around turn 9 or turn 10. I think that's turn 9. Or between turns 8 and 9. He has had a spin. Crime takes the pit lane. He has another spin. This is what I'm on about. These cars look like they're going to absolutely storm it. But this is what's happened. I said before, 27 laps. It's either they win or they crash. And Dion has now dropped to 5th place. He had a spin. I don't know if there was a tangle with the teammate. We'll have to, if Devdo maintains the lead, I will have to ask him in the post-race interviews. Again, sadly, Assetto Corsa does not allow for post-race, for mid-race replays. But Dion, yes, has a, I think something happened there with Skrodsky and Cookie. Cookie up to 8th now, but Dion now dropped back to 5th place and will have to claw that up, and that's not an easy task depending on how much any damage is affecting him. Like I say, no error, and the damage from minor taps is most likely non-existent, but if he's had too much damage, if he's had too much go wrong, he might even have, I don't think he's got any suspension damage. We can have a quick look. No, he looks perfectly fine on the steering column there. But he's now going to have to gain his 1 second to Darkius, another 3 to 4 seconds to Jaker, another 3 seconds to M1 LDT. I mean, it's doable. There are 28 laps, sorry, 18 laps even, still to go in this race. It is doable if this car has the pace it can have, but Dion must be, he must maintain his calm, he must maintain his posture and claim those places back and not get too frustrated at himself for what has just happened with him. As if we return to Gonzington, now they have been passed by Devdo. It looks like they have been lapped by Devdo. I believe that is Devdo. We can have a quick check. Yes, it is. And they are still fighting for position. Again, like I say, that particular piece of contact earlier, I think both drivers perhaps thought was their fault. As there's now contact again, Daniel Scott is off, and Sench also appears to have just had an issue, allowing Gons just to go straight through up into 16th place. This has certainly been a race that has been full of some interesting moments, as Dion, I believe, just got past Deep Cuts. I'm not quite sure if he was behind Deep Cuts. No, he wasn't. Sorry. He's getting past Darkius now. Again, does it quite easily. With that power of that Cilium's car is just, well, it's simply put, vroom. I think that's the only way to explain it. Whatever they have done to their engine. But the question is, will that end up harming them in future races? At the end of this race, they will receive, if they keep like this, and if Dion, especially if Dion takes his 2nd place, the Cilium's team, actually, sorry, no, even if they stay like this, the Cilium's team will finish this race P1 in the team standings, and P1 in the team standings for this race as Deep Cuts now gets passed by Thomas Jack, possibly having a moment of himself. Hubble is now fighting with Skrodsky. Let's have a look at this. But as I was saying, if nothing happens here, oh, they get very close, some of these people in some of these apexes. As I was saying, if they finish as they are now, the Cilium's team will be considered for this race to have finished first as a team, and as such will receive fewer points, fewer research tokens than the other teams going forwards, as Sylvain Hubble tries to hold it, but he can't do it this time around. Will they? They touch in the middle of the corner. As they come up to turn 2, we will have to rethink how he's going to try and get past. But yep, so Cilium's team might have to start thinking they might, if they've taken too much here and now and haven't planned enough for the future, they may end up paying for it later on in the season for this initial burst of pace, if other teams are able to spend more and better research tokens to try and beat them. As said, there are multiple upgrade trees available from multiple different areas. Aero, weight, gearing, which I think this race, especially for Gons now, was shown will be something they will have to think about with that downshift and those 3 gears, especially if they're trying to increase the amount of power they have in the car. but also engines. There are, I believe, 5 or 6 different engines available of different models, weights, and makes. All very fictional, classic sort of motorsport manager style. I'm using titles like, I think Renjo is the current popular model. Obviously a fusion of Renault and Peugeot there. As Sylvain Hubbell, they touch again. Hubbell's going to have to try and make a move, but he can't be doing that, or he is going to lose time. As Dion is now fighting with Jaker up in the lead pack, as Jaker squeezing him a little bit there to the inside turn 3 into turn 4. Maybe a little bit of contact. That's wheel to wheel. Their hubcaps are practically shouting each other. As Dion's now going to just roar that speed as the Spinardi car gets out of the way. I'm not quite sure if that's Scott or Trainboy. I think it's Scott. As Jake can now resign just to see the rear end of that Cilliams car ahead, as it will most likely just pull away with the pace they have at the moment. Let's see Hubbell now making another attempt of a move again down the back straight. This has been a great little place for passes, especially when Power and Slipstream, they touch again. These people need to stop touching each other. As, oh, there's a little lockup from Skrodsky as Pigeon comes in and absolutely rear ends, possibly distracted looking at his teammate in the dirt. So net Hubbell has gained one position, but almost, sorry, actually no, net, I think Hubbell stayed in the same place, as Pigeon has been able to get past by the misfortune of his teammate and a little punt, but there may be some stewards looking at that at the end of this race. As we see again up the order, actually let's have a look back, sorry. Hubbell has let Skrodsky through, seemingly, unless he just had something happen to him there. I'm not sure. I'll have to see what happened there. I cannot tell what actually went on there. It looks like Gons has also had a moment and possibly been passed by, or has been passed by, Daniel Scott. The India bus drivers team not having the best day of it. Again, Crime still being one lap down. Hubbell now the closest battle on the track. Again, trying to hunt down Skrodsky back to where they had that issue. Oh, and he gets spun. Oh, he just clips the barrier, but I think he should be alright. But that is going to reset again his fight, as Trainboy now is right on his rear. Can Train substitute for Robin Moe, hoping to do his job and provide Spinardi. Now Daniel Scott being in 18th. Gets a bit of that snap again. He's going to hope that he can help to bring some much needed points early on to the Spinardi team, but as I was saying, slowness is not necessarily the worst thing in the world here. It just means more research points for you and your team. As Suicidal Cookie now fighting harshly with deep cuts, the QP car versus the PST car. I actually quite like that livery. I think Cupid should keep it for the rest of the season. As these two cars duke it out. As Dion now, we're missing this. Dion just gets past M1LDT. It looked like M1LDT had perhaps himself also caught gravel. Let's try and not miss other battles happening on the grid as we go along. Dion now back up into second place. So Cilliams 1-2 has been restored in 6. Nope, I think maybe, yeah, 6 laps. There's someone is off in the gravel there. I can't quite see who it is. It's the Indian bus driver's car of Gons. Down in 17th place, as the good doctor has just passed Trainboy for 12th place, but we'll stick here. M1LDT up ahead is trying to fight back against Dion, but I don't think he will be able to do it. Let's have a look. Can Cookie now tailed by Gons after that little spin. Can Cookie take the fight and take some points for QP. As the only QP driver currently on track, as Aaron Fiedler sadly could not make it. Let's have a quick look back with Trainboy 2005 now trying to get himself back past the Good Doctor. Good Doctor being Aaron Rains, trying to get him back past our long-time Racing Powers driver. We see if he can do it, but try and hopefully not miss, as Cookie now getting side by side with Deep. They are almost touching there, as so many others have this race. Now onto the long straight. Gons is going to try and unlap himself. He's, I think, weaving just to mess with Cookie's head there. As Cookie now drops quite significantly back from deep cuts. He did not get as good an exit, I think, as he wanted to through that section, through that turn 5, which is just so important before a very long straight, especially in these cars, which, as you may have noticed, don't quite have the pace of most cars, let alone our previous Formula Powers entries. And therefore it's a very long straight, and if you lose time at the start of it, well, you're just going to lose time for basically half the lap. So look, Trainboy is now behind the Good Doctor by 1.3 seconds. He seemingly has dropped off any advantage he had managed to claw back in the last few laps. As things now, lap 19 out of 30 has started to peter out. Well, actually, Devdo, that's given me a nice little more accurate 18.9 laps have been done by the leader. As we see him here, we haven't seen him much today because he has just... Sadly, action was happening when he got past his teammate, and his teammate had that spin, and we have not seen much of him apart from his starting laps where he was absolutely carving his way through the field. I mean, if there's any sort of thing as a driver of the day, which sadly I don't actually have a sheet for, my personal driver of the day thus far would probably have to be Devdo himself. He had a terrible start but clawed it back. And as you can see, he is 19 seconds clear. As many seconds as there are laps happened in this race, he is clear of Dionysus New. And then a further 3 seconds back then to Milt. 7 more seconds to Jacob the Snack. And 2 more seconds back to Darkest. I mean, he is just dominating this race. I suppose it's a good time to ask Eddie. I don't have a form, but if any of you want to put in your in the chat your suggestions for driver of the day, please do. But in my mind, I'm not sure there's a contest. Let's return to another car which hasn't been seen too much. Thomas Jack. In the, again, beautiful to some. Small PP car with his name there on the back. He hasn't been seen too much this race, but just doing a very clean race. I mean, as he comes to seemingly lap his teammate Sench in 16th place, 10 places between the two teammates, which isn't the worst thing. Again, going back to those tokens, it puts them in a sort of middle pack when it comes to the final results, and therefore the research tokens they will get at the end of this race. But Thomas Jack sitting in 6th place quite comfortably most of this race. I don't really think he's been beyond it, as his teammate actually goes off and gets out of the way a little bit there, remaining in 16th, doesn't lose anything himself, still 21 seconds from Sench to Gons behind. But like I say, Thomas Jack, famously very, very quick driver. He actually gets past... I'm not quite sure what happened there. No, he didn't get past anyone. It's just trying to tell me that people have been past, but it hasn't. Thomas Jack, as we know, very, very quick driver in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Currently competing in our RP series in that particular sim, having won several races and I think possibly even a championship in there. at least on at least one occasion, and a couple of endurance races to boot. But here today, he doesn't seem to have been able to make as much of an impact. He doesn't really do too much on the Assetto Corsa regular side of things, but he's maintained a nice position, 9 seconds clear of deep cuts behind, but as Husky does say in the chat, washed indeed. Yes, Tom is very washed, as we all know, but he's also a very talented driver who is very skilled, but in this race has not been able to compete at the top level, but has held his own and will bring home a nice little bit of championship points for his team and for himself. At the moment as things stand, I think the teams will be Ciliums, followed by Spectre of Milton Darkius, followed by the PCT racing teams of Jaker in 4th and Deep in 7th, who combined should jump, will definitely jump, Thomas Jack and Sedge for the 4th place in the teams. As we see now, Hubble seemingly just got passed by Skrodsky. Again, we have missed it unfortunately, but we'll see if Hubble can fight back. Possibly something happened to Skrodsky very, very quick, at least to me, as Hubble looks like he's about to get back right away. They're side by side, but the Poland car has the inside line of turn 1, and that can be very important. As Hubble goes very wide. Sylvain Hubble goes very, very wide in that HCR car, and is not able to make an effective challenge into turn 2. He's going to again have to rely on the exit, I think, possibly of turn 5, and try and get a run on the straight, because I think the Helios car just seems to have a little bit of an edge on that straight, but especially in slipstream at least. Whether that's slipstream or upgrade development, I don't know. We see he gets a good exit, and it looks like it's gaining on him. He has to pull out as soon as he can, as the Skrodsky pulls over to the right hand side of the track, probably trying to maintain the inside line for the next corner. We'll see how that pays off, as something possibly happened there to Train Boy. We can't quite tell at the moment as we follow this battle. The Helios car there literally testing the track limits as much as they possibly can, but still not past the Poland car. Maybe a little bit of contact there, but they're really going at it. These two have been going at it this entire race. As he does it, Hubble gets ahead in the Helios car, leaving Skrodsky behind. But we'll see. Skrodsky may come back on him again, as Trainboy 2005 now on the back of the Good Doctor. Again, lime green, or mint green versus bright yellow green, whatever colour you want to call it. Two very distinctive cars on the track. Maybe not wanting to look too close at either, but to see if Trainboy can. He has dropped a few seconds in the last few corners, as up ahead, the fight for 10th, Skrodsky has still maintained a gap of around 0.5 seconds to Hubble, and will potentially try and come back on him. Let's have a look at this battle, as again the slipstream on that straight. You wouldn't think these cars have much of it, but it does appear to be relatively powerful if you get a good enough exit out of that corner. As we hear someone gets into the gravel, I'm not quite sure who. It's the Spinardi car. That is, I think, Daniel Scott. Yeah, it looks like it was Daniel Scott. Running now in 18th, but still ahead of Crime, who is still a lap down, whatever caused that. And Skrodsky continuing to maintain this gap to Hubble ahead. These two, again, like I say, have been absolutely going at it, hammering away at each other all race. See if he can make a move through the first sector. It's clearly been a very difficult place to try and make overtakes. I don't think I've seen too many thus far pay off in this this area of the track. I think the problem is the way it flows. You take the outside to try and get the inside, but take the outside of turn 1 and they get ahead, they get to choose the inside from the next corner as well. Oh, as there's a snap, that snap again, the downshift, possibly a downshift snap there. As Skrodsky gets control of the car, but drops now to 1.5 seconds behind Hubble in this battle for 10th. He will be hard pressed now to get that back. Now he is out of slipstream range. He'll have to try and rely purely on his car and his abilities to gain that position back in the next 5 laps. As we see here, Darky is down in 5th place, 2 seconds behind Jacob the Snack. And again, some resetting of the scoreboard. No one has made any moves there, it's just the scoreboard deciding to go, ooh, something's happened, possibly. That's a technical term. See Darky is now in the Spectre car, trying to hunt down Jacob the Snack for 4th place, trying to take a 3-4, a second row finish, if you're allowed to call it that, when it's not pole or not qualifying, for the Team Spectre team, with M1LD2, his teammate, now in 3rd place. It should be noted that Devdo up ahead has actually lost some time to Dionysus Nu behind him. The gap, as we mentioned on lap 19, was 19 seconds, thereabouts. The gap has now dropped to 10.8 seconds, but with that rate of change, it does not look like Dion will be able to get ahead of him in the next few laps. As we see now Deep Cuts and Suicidal Cookie side by side once again, suddenly in a battle again. We have seen this throughout the race, certain cars, certain drivers being absolutely fighting each other throughout this race for position, as Cookie gets ahead of the Peace T car through that, the penultimate 2 corners, of penultimate chicane if you want to call it that. And now through the final corner, Deep is going to have to try and get some power on and make his way back past Cupid car. He's going to have a look to the inside. He's going to think about it as Cookie goes a little bit wide in the entry, but doesn't manage to make anything of it. Let's have a look at this camera. I set this camera up and we haven't not used it, so let's have a use of it. I like it. Nice little rear-facing camera. You can see, oh, as Cookie gets that snap oversteer. He gets that snap from the downshift, which again is something very common in this car. You have to get some throttle. You have to blip the throttle manually to try and keep it under control, at least with this current gearing set. And we've already seen it, I think, cause one crash between Gons and Daniel Scott, and cause other issues for many other cars, including very recently Mr. Skrodsky in the Poland's finest team car down in 11th. As we see now, attempting to make an overtake. Deep Cuts on Suicidal Cookie. QP versus Peace D. 2 very lovely coloured cars. And Deep makes the move very early, but Cookie's going to try and get him back, as I think there might have been a bit of contact there. Deep very much forced to stick it on the curbing, as the Poland car behind of Eduardo Pigeon is going to try and also get into the fray and try and take advantage of this. He'll obviously be very much hoping that he'll be able to take 7th place if these two have any sort of coming together in a major way, but Deep and Cookie, both very, very good drivers, long-standing drivers, both again, as Milt and Darkis, or Jake and Darkis earlier today, both directors for the Racing Pals community, long-time members and directors. Good drivers, they will be able to race each other sensibly, should not have any major coming togethers, but you never know. Certainly wouldn't be the first time that sort of thing has happened. Cookie remains ahead, but Deep is absolutely fighting him to go wide on the entry. Deep takes the inside. You've got to, I think we've seen that throughout the day, you've got to take every opportunity. If there's an opportunity opens up, you've got to try and take it. I hate to use the quote because it was technically a lie at the time. Well, it wasn't technically a lie at the time, it was a lie at the time, but you know, if you don't go for the gap that exists, then you are not a Project A driver. As Eduardo Pigeon now absolutely in this fight, 0.34 seconds behind. You know, this is half a second in this fight. Pigeon dropping off a little bit on the straight, but Deep is going to try and absolutely take, making a move on the inside of turn 6. He makes it stick, but is Cookie going to be able to come back? Yes, he is. He's going to absolutely push it to the limit. And they touch! And Deep is round! Deep is round. Eduardo Pigeon tries to avoid, doesn't quite manage it. Deep is round, and that is what Pigeon's probably been waiting for. Unfortunately, got caught up in that contact, but Deep is now on the grass, going to have to try and get back. He's going to be passed by Hubble. He's passed by Skrodsky. He is passed by no one else because that is a small PB car, but now he is passed by the good doctor as well. Small PB car getting past there, but also a back marker. And he's now lapped again by, I'm not sure which car that is. None of these cars here. Trainboy now behind. Trainboy behind him, Daniel Scott. I think it's Daniel Scott, so Deep is safe. 4 seconds clear of the car behind, but he drops to 12th place, and that is absolute terror. Absolute terror for the Peace T team. Deep Cuts going from fighting for 7th down to 12th place. And whatever damage he has on that car, possibly towards the end of this race, only 2 laps to go now. Possibly even having to fight Trainboy off if Trainboy can catch him within that time period. Deep is possibly not going to be very happy with that. And we'll see if anything comes out of it post-stewarding, as that is I think that is Gons now in the barrier. Having had his own moment, gets passed by Daniel Scott once again. Not the best race for this particular team. My own former team, sadly. Not the best race for the Indian bus drivers, as we see now Trainboy has now got in touching distance with Deep. Possibly Deep had another incident whilst Gons had his. And will Deep Cuts now drop to 13th place after that contact with Cookie earlier on and not being able to hold on to the car? Again, if you're Eduardo Pigeon, you've got to be a bit disappointed you got caught up, but that's what Pigeon was waiting for. One or more of them. As Deep goes wide, he's onto the gravel, and Trainboy just runs through. Absolutely passing as well for good measure his Spinardi lap teammate Daniel Scott. And the Cilliams car now behind. I think that's Dionysus New now coming by to lap the both of them as well. As we see now, Devdo starting his final lap of this race. Again, if anyone has any idea on who should be their driver of the day, please put it in the chat. But once again, I think it has to go to this fella here, as Deep Cuts get past Trainboy. Trainboy has had an off, possibly come together with Dion involved as well. I do not know what has happened there, but Deep Cuts is back up to 12th place, but maybe not forever, as he gets a little bit of a snap out of turn 2. But I think he is 4.7 seconds clear of Trainboy, and I think he's going to finish this race. If nothing major happens, he just needs to keep it together. Oh, he gets a little bit too much on the curb there by the looks of it. It's a very disappointing race for Deep Cuts. Very unfortunate. He was running very, very well at the beginning of this race and fighting very, very well with Cookie for much of it. But eventually, you know, the unmovable object meets the unstoppable force, and they did come together. As Devdo now, let's have a little ride on board with Devdo here. As we see him come down, he does a little bit of a weave, a little bit of I'm the race winner, I know it, I beat my teammate, I beat everyone else by a good 15 seconds. And Devdo is your inaugural Project Ameliorate race winner, as his teammate Dionysus New now takes the flag for the inaugural 2nd place, I guess. And that means they take, as a team, full points. I believe possibly there is a fastest lap, which I cannot see right now. There is possibly a fastest lap involved, which will give 1 point to another team, but if I had to take a guess, it's also going to Cilliams as well. As you see now, Skrodsky. Now these two on the final lap, and like I said, they've been fighting all race. It's not over yet. These two still going at it. Up to the line, it looks like. As they come now. Finally, final time as there's contact. And that puts Skrodsky through, but if he knows what's good for him, he should wait now. If he waits now, no one else can overtake Hubble. But I don't think he will. That may... I mean, obviously, if he doesn't think that's his fault, then that's perfectly up to him to continue. But that may be a penalty post-race. Hubble has to return to the pits, knowing that he's going to finish 10th either way, possibly for the best to just return to the pits. That is unfortunate. That battle had been going on all race and down to the line. And at the very end there, Skrodsky just rams Hubble, basically. From my perspective, makes contact with Hubble and pushes him round to take the place. But well, obviously, I think the stewards will definitely be having a look at that one after this race has concluded, or basically now, very shortly. So, there we have it. First race of Project Ameliorate. Next race, we shall be back at, I believe, I need to check. Obviously, we have interviews in a second, but next race will be back at Cadwell Park. And like I said, interesting part about this series is next race, all of these cars, or most of them at least, should be, if teams don't want to, it's up to them, but will be slightly altered and slightly improved with the upgrades that they are allowed to take. So I'm now going to put out a call for drivers to come and join me in this booth, which isn't really a booth, it's a Discord channel, but we don't like to let people know that. As I'm just messaging our podium sitters to join us here, or join the interview waiting room for their post-race interviews. As Milk comes in first. Shall we do this in reverse order? I think we shall. Hello, M1 LDT.
Hello.
Hello. I thought I'd do this in reverse order. Usually we do it normally, but this time I thought, nah, let's go backwards. So, third place, I think, out of the three, out of the podium sitters, probably the hardest fought for. How was that for you? How was the first race of Project A for you?
I mean, Stilliams has done a madness in the fucking upgrades, so I didn't expect me to be any more higher up in the rankings. So P3 is the maximum I could get today. Yeah, the car felt quite good. The tires lasted nicely. Gained more speed through the race to the end. So from my personal point of view, apart from like two almost deadly fast right-handers after the back straight, yeah, not many problems. I was very very impressed by the speed the Silliams had, and by Jacob behind me as well. He kept me on my game in like the first half of the race, didn't let me go. So yeah, not too bad.
Oh, that's good. And while you're in here, were you with your teammate in the race?
I was with my
Darkest,
teammate.
because I know he had some good battles with Jaker, especially.
Yeah. I had to shut up in the last two laps to let him concentrate. So, yeah, he was at some point like two-thirds in, he started gaining on Jaker. Jaker started making a little bit some mistakes, I think, is what he said, and our tires were like godly at the end, like really good. So he caught up to Jaker. I'm not sure what the gap was in the end, but I heard it was very close.
The gap was, I can see it now, Jacob did a 36.002, or was 36 seconds back. It was basically 0.5.
Damn,
It was
that's
very
really
tight.
close.
No, but
Yeah, that's nice.
congratulations to you.
I'm happy with the performance of my teammate as well with Darkius. I think apart from the P4, it's still P5. It's really still really good. I'm curious to see how many research points we will get from this, and hopefully close the gap to fucking Ciliums because it's too big.
I suppose there's a question. There's a question I've been burning to ask. Any idea? Do you want to give any indication? How are you going to do with your upgrades?
Okay. Interesting question. I thought you were gonna ask me how Ciliums got up there, and I think I know how.
I think I
I
know how
think,
Ciliums did it. I think they've gone very
yeah,
much pace oriented. I think they've done some weight stripping as well.
no, I think they're the most part of their performance advantage is because they customized first gear. They lengthened the gear, which makes the
Oh.
jump from first to second way more smoother and way better on exits of turns. I will neither confirm or deny if me and Dark are gonna do that. I'm sure we're gonna go into a little call to consider and see what's good for us. But I think we can make a nice jump for the next race.
So you think their dominance might be setup related and not upgrades?
Setup of the first gear, yeah.
Well, that would certainly be
Yeah.
interesting then to see if everyone else can catch up.
I think if it was going around in the voice channel with everybody beforehand in the practice, and I think a lot of people noticed that their first gear was slightly better than ours.
Well,
So we'll see.
they were a good 2 seconds clear through both practice
Well,
and quali.
I think our fastest lap, I was well within the 2 seconds here.
I'm not
I
sure what
think
the
I did a
fastest
pretty
lap in
good
the race
job.
was, but in the qualifying they were 129s. I think
Yeah.
third place was a 131. But I shall let you get on. Congratulations! I need to get now to Dion. Congratulations
Yeah,
on your podium. Congratulations on I think that's
Thanks
P2
a
as
lot.
well in the teams at the moment because unfortunately at the end of that race, Deep Cuts had a massive coming together with Cookie and.
Ooh,
3 and 5
really?
would beat you anyway. Yes, they've been fighting all the race and they had quite the contact. You can see it on the stream replay if you want to have a look at it. But
I
unfortunate
will
for
get my
them,
way
but
on there.
very very good for you.
Man. Yeah. Pass over my congratulations to the Ciliums boys and scare them off a bit with the people who are gonna check the car.
I will
'Cause,
certainly scare them
maybe
off
they
with
find
the
something, yeah?
what was that? Diddler. I will certainly scare them off.
Inspection, yes.
Okay. Right, well, thank you, Milt.
Thank you for the stream and commentating and everything. See you.
See you. Right, now we shall move on quickly to Dionysus New, who is muted, but I'm sure we can wake him up. Hello, Dion, are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Hello, Dion. Congratulations on second place. Milt also just offered his congratulations to you and your teammate as he was leaving
thank
this.
you for you and for Milt.
So, I guess the first question is, what happened to you? Because I noticed that you had a spin from first place of some kind, and your teammate just took the lead.
Yeah, I lost my concentration for a bit, and I braked a bit too late. I locked up, went off track and just spun. Then after that, in my frustration, I didn't pay attention and hit a curb and spun once more, which I actually hit my front wing against the wall a little bit, so I had to carry a bit of damage forward.
Other than that, unfortunately, there's not too much to talk to you about because, let's just say, you were dominant as a team today.
Thank you.
Any suggestions as to why that might be? Milt has had a couple of speculative suggestions himself as to why your team might have been so dominant. Do you want to enlighten everyone, or do you have a closely guarded secret that everyone else has to work out?
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny any allegations made about the upgrades that Ciliums Racing have brought to this race. But I do want to say a massive thank you to everyone involved with constructing the car for making this possible.
No, it certainly has been quite the entertaining race. It certainly has done its job in some ways. Your dominance is kind of made it quite interesting to see how everyone else is going to have to try and catch up. Now, obviously, you're going to have to a bit of struggle because you and Dev now have fewer research points for the next race, fewer tokens available to you by finishing so high up in the order. Any ideas? Obviously, you don't have to give away anything, but do you have any ideas where you're going to go with upgrades for the next race at Cadwell?
No, I really don't. We haven't made any plans for that yet. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, how the performance ends up at Catwell with other teams catching up.
Fair enough. Well, thank you, Dion, and congratulations on your
Yes,
second
thank
place.
you
And I'm
again.
gonna move on to your race winner and teammate.
All right, good luck and congratulations to him as well.
Yeah, I will pass that on. I'm sure you've already said it to him, but I will pass it on nonetheless. See you, Dion. Right, now we come on to the race winner, Devdo. Hello, Devdo.
Hello.
Hello. Congratulations, first and foremost.
Thank you very much.
I've also been asked to give congratulations from both P3 and P2, even though P2 is your teammate, who I'm sure has already said it once or twice.
Yeah, we're on the same PC, so we're just
So I guess the
yeah.
the first question has to be, what the hell happened at the start?
Oof, well, I was at the start and I was like, and then I realized, oh wait, I've never done a start in this car before, so I asked Dion what I do, and he says, oh, do this, that, and next thing. So I do that, but I don't do it properly, and I absolutely bog down and just not good. But I mean, it was cool to like battle my way up the field after that.
That certainly provided some good early race entertainment here. I think you dropped down. Did you drop down to 7th or 8th? I can't quite remember. I think
It was 9th.
was it 9th? I know you dropped down to 7th, and we were focusing on a few battles up ahead. By the time I'd look back at you, you were back in 7th, so didn't really notice how far you'd fallen. But yeah, you certainly carved your way through the field. Had a little bit of pace down that back stretch.
Yeah,
I noticed.
I think I got a triple overtake on the straight. I was so happy with that.
No, yeah, you certainly had the pace. I already spoke with Dion a little bit about why he thinks that is. That's obviously not asking you to give anything away, but yeah. So you certainly had some pace, and I suppose that's down to upgrades. Milt seemed to suggest that it was something a little different to do with gearing, but
I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny. I'm under a contract with
NDA.
Dion not to say anything. So
non-disclosure agreements have been signed. Clearly, was there any point during this race? So you overtook Dion. I think for a while there you were actually gaining on him. You overtook him after he had a spin.
yeah, he spun and then he spun again, and then that's kind of where it ended. I did spin on the chicane.
I don't think
I
I even
lost
noticed.
11 seconds to Dion, but the gap was so big that it didn't actually matter.
That will make sense then, because for a second there at the end of the race, I thought he was actually gaining on you, but I assume you must have had a spin at some point, and that was what dropped the time back down. Because I think 19 laps, I remember saying 19 laps ago you were 19 seconds clear, and then by the end of the race you were only 10 seconds clear.
Yeah.
Was there any point where you were feeling a bit too confident, maybe getting a bit nervous about your commanding lead?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, oh, just my luck, I'm gonna spin, or I'm gonna get to the final lap, my engine's gonna blow. But luckily, it didn't even start to smoke because I was engine saving so much at the end because I was really worried that it would blow.
Well, that is also another part. I haven't actually mentioned that. I've tried to mention as much as I can about the cars. Obviously, for this being the first race being broadcast, another part of the cars is that you can blow the engine.
Yeah.
If anyone who's played AT is familiar, they will know that there is a sort of warning light that comes on when the engine revs too high, and that comes on quite a lot in these cars, and it indicates how much you're wearing the engine down over the course of a race. I suppose we haven't actually seen that come into play yet. do you think will come into play in future? Do you have any concerns about it?
It depends on what people upgrade. If people upgrade like power and like kind of drive like things to do with not like that don't increase like engine life, I think if they don't do any engine life upgrades, we will start seeing problems in the next couple of races.
No, yeah, that's certainly interesting to see. Now, obviously, again, I asked Dion, and obviously, again, you're at absolutely no liberty to say or have to do anything. But by winning this race and by having a 1-2, you are going to receive fewer research tokens than basically every other team on the grid.
Yeah.
But do you have any idea how you're going to perhaps push the direction? Not anything specific, but any sort of idea where you want to push this car a bit more, where you think the car could do with improving and developing towards?
I don't know. You can either, as I said, play it safe, start upgrading, kind of health stuff for the car, or you can go just raw power, like engine, or you can, if you're a dive bomb kind of guy, you can put all your stuff in brakes.
Yeah, we certainly saw a few dive bombs today, and I'm sure there'll be quite a few drivers wanting to do that. I think this track kind of lends itself to it. Obviously, you didn't have much fighting here, but it did seem like if a gap opens up, you have to take it.
Yeah.
So yeah, before you go, I also want to let you know that whilst we didn't have an actual vote, you are my driver of the day. I've chosen you. You, like I said, you dropped very far back on the starting lap and just carved your way through, and just even before Dion spin, you were absolutely eating your way into his time, and even though you didn't quite match his pole time, you were absolutely on it throughout the race. And well, you say you had a spin, we didn't even notice. That's how dominant your race has been today. So congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
And I shall see you then at the next race, where you will hopefully try and make it 2 for 2.
Yep, we'll try. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So there we have it. Those were your 3 podium sitters for this race: M1 LDT, Dionysus New, and Devdo, who won the race with a commanding lead of 13 seconds, which is even more commanding if you consider that apparently he had a spin somewhere in there and we didn't even notice. So take that spin out of the equation, it'd probably be closer to 30 seconds than it is to 10. Have a quick look down the order then, just at the end of this race. Jacob the Snack at P4, Darkius P5, Thomas Jack P6, Suicidal Cookie P7, followed by Eduardo Pigeon, Skrodsky Hubble, The Good Doctor, Deep Cuts, Train Boy, Nicholas Chin, Benjamin Walrack, Sench, Daniel Scott, Gons, and Crime, with a few others in the standings somewhere behind that who have not, as of yet, actually competed. And whilst I have a look, because now the actual race has ended, I can have a quick look before we move on to the final little pieces, and tell you the team standings are as follows. Cilium's Racing lead with 77 points. Actually, I hadn't said the points reference, so I'll have a quick look. Basically, it's first place, it's 40 points, second 37, third 35, fourth 33. It goes down in steps of 2 until you get to 13th, which gets 15 points, and it goes down in ordinary steps of 1 all the way down to 24th, who gets 4 points. And as there can't be more than 24 drivers, I believe, in this series, that is where the cutoff. There is actually no point for fastest lap or best qualifying, which I thought there perhaps was, but I was mistaken earlier. So, as I said, as it stands, Cilium's Racing leading the standings with 77 points, followed by Team Spectre with 66. Peace T Racing in third with 50. Poland's Finest fourth with 48, followed by Small PP with 41. Helios Community Racing in 6th with 34 points. The Leftovers with 33 in 7th. QP with Cookie having taken the only driver of that team to have taken part in this race, 27 points to put QP in 8th, followed by Spinardi in 9th with 26, and Indian Bus Drivers with 19 points in 10th. The only teams not to have points thus far are the only team, is Yaoi over Yuri, and the team which has not yet competed, Ghost Riders, I believe they're called, Racing, who have not as of yet competed in this championship. They were in the pre-season race. How Sorry, they weren't. Sorry, the Yaoi Yuri team were in the preseason race. So, before we go, thank you all, I guess, for watching. First off, this week we have several other coming up, several other RP race events. This Wednesday is, as always, our Assetto Corsa race and chill session, in which we run a random car, well, not a random car, one track, or most times one car, maybe one, sometimes more. And every week a different person in the race is chosen to choose next week's combo, and that happens every Wednesday evening at 8 PM GMT for an hour of practice quali, followed by 2 20-minute races, the second race being reverse grid. Next Saturday as well, next Sunday as well. Unfortunately, I don't have a promo for that, as Cookie has just joined the chat for very happy about plugging Race and Chill. Next Sunday, anyway, is Imola for RP Series, the, I believe, first proper race of the RP Series, much like this one has been today. The pre-season happened last weekend. Imola for our ACC GT3 and GT4 category race league. And then, next piece, which I actually have a poster for, Saturday, March 11th at 4 PM GMT, the Racing Pals Endurance 4 Hours of Monza. GT3 and GT4 category with solo or duo drivers welcome, with live stewarding and live stream commentary, not by myself at the moment, but possibly by someone else. And that will be 4 hours after 30 minutes of practice, 20 minutes of qualifying, with practice starting at 4 o'clock and likely a driver's briefing beforehand. If you want to join the Racing Pals Discord server and join the Discord, go and sign up on RaceApp. But until next time, 2 weeks' time, Cadwell Park for the next race of the Project Ameliorate inaugural season, Season 1, where we will see the same drivers but in slightly different machinery. Until then, I have been James Andrews, and I shall see you soon. Goodbye.